I want to call to order the Strategic Planning Committee meeting of Monday, August the 23rd, 2010. Roll call. Councilman Thompson is not here. Everyone else is present. Invocation will be led by Councilman Valentine and pledge to follow.
Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day, Lord. We ask you blessings on our meeting tonight, Father. And as always, Lord, we ask blessings on our men and women doing service for our country, Father. Father, we ask wisdom for tonight's meeting, and we ask all these things in your Son's holy name. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, number 3, public comment period. Anyone wishing to speak on any subject will be allowed 3 minutes. Number 4, update on administrative adjudicated court. Ms. Tony Faltman.
Okay, I know it sounds like I'm repeating myself, but I don't think everyone realized how much work goes into this. We're in the process. We maybe have 2 more revisions to make to get all the ordinances in place. We have to do ordinances where the hearing officer can subpoena. They had a few things in there that I didn't agree with that I wanted changed, and after bouncing it off a few people, they also agreed. We did meet with finance though, so we are trying to push this and try to set a budget. We kind of have a tentative budget in place. There's a lot of things people didn't think about that we thought about after. We have to give property owners notice, so we had to talk about hiring people to do title searches and things of this nature, because although somebody's leasing something, if we're filing something against someone's property, we need to know who the owner is. And there's just a lot of things we didn't think about, but we are working very hard on this. We probably talk about it 4 or 5 times a week, and we're getting there. It's just taking a little time, and I wanted y'all to understand that. We talked to finance. We think tentatively by November 1st, if everything falls right, we could have this started at the latest January 1st. And that's only because we have to pass ordinances through the council, new ordinances. We have to make sure everyone's contracts are in place for who's going to pick up the junk, who's going to pick up the trash, things we didn't think about that maybe y'all did but aren't in the ordinances, or if we have things that have to be disposed of properly through DEQ and stuff, we have to make sure people can do that. We have to make sure we have somewhere to house these cars, refrigerators, TVs, things we pick up, and go through the proper legal process. And I just want y'all to understand that's what's taking a little while, is we're going to have to sit down, maybe put out bids and see who can do it, who wants to do it, get a list established. There's just a lot of things going on with this.
Well,
But we are working on it and working very hard. I just wanted y'all to understand what we were working on, so y'all not like, they're still just working on it.
Tony, and I don't know if all of that was in the intent. Basically, what we wanted was the judge to tell the people to clear it off, and if they didn't, they would be fined.
Right, and we are
Why is it that they can do those things in the municipalities, and they are doing them, and we can't do that?
That's the thing. We can do it. That's not a problem. And we're going to fine them if they don't do it within a certain amount of days. But you don't want somebody to come to court 10 times and just keep fining them. We want it removed. So within a certain period of time, if they haven't done it, they will be fined, but we're going to pick it up and charge them to pick it up.
Okay.
And that way it's out of there, and we're not just fining the same people over and over and over again.
Okay. So in other words, we're working to have an end result no matter what.
Right,
Okay.
not just a fine and not seeing the same person come back in front of the hearing officer 10 times and pay their fine and not do anything. We want it out of there.
That'd be fine. As long as we're making progress, we're getting a little impatient because
We've
because
made
of
a
the time.
lot of progress. Just meeting with finance and establishing a budget was a little turmoil, and it was kind of hard because this is brand new. The parishes I've spoken to one parish that we kind of based a lot of our ordinances off of. They said once we get it up and running, let them know, because they never got it right. So we're pretty much starting from scratch.
That's
And-
encouraging.
But I just want to let y'all know, like, other parishes that have done this, the only one I know about, we're starting from scratch. Like, this is me completely redoing ordinances, thinking of all these things that need to be taken care of. It's not where we can just look at somebody and say, what did y'all do? How did you do it?
Right.
So that's what's taking a lot, and I just wanted to let y'all know
I
that.
guess, I got some of the same question that Kent had, but based on looking at one of the, municipalities or something, is it because they go in and clean it themselves and use most of the municipalities have contracted garbage systems in place and stuff like that? And do they also already have things in place that can give them the short, real easy?
I can't answer that question for you. I
Could you
really-
check with the municipalities and see
Uh-huh.
how they do it?
Yeah.
Say like the city of Gonzales?
Not a problem.
And I know if it's grass cutting or something like that, then, we can send in a parish tractor or something, and we charge them so much for that, But
And the
when it
only
comes to
thing-
removing vehicles and white goods and things like that, you gotta have a service to do
The
it.
thing that's different with us in municipalities is they don't have to follow, I think it's Title 38, like all of the public things we have to follow. So a lot of times, like, we can't piggyback off their list or their contracts for things because we have to follow different standards than them.
Okay.
So we checked on all that too.
All right.
Well, just put it on the agenda for next month. Let us know how we're doing, and,
We made a lot of leeway. I know
Well-
it doesn't sound like it.
well, no, that's
But if
fine.
I could show you, like, how much we've rewritten the ordinances and found out who can serve subpoenas and how can we grant the judge these powers. I mean, there's a lot of work going into this, and there was a lot of work just sitting there going, can we record the meetings? How much will it cost? How much will this cost? I mean, the hearings, how much will this cost? I mean, we put a lot of work into it.
Well, very good. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
And,
Thank you, Tony.
we'll keep on at it till we get it. Number 5, discussion of amendment to waterways ordinance. John Tomplay. John represents the Waterways Commission.
Y'all just want me to basically go over it and while we're requesting this amendment?
Yes.
We're requesting an amendment to the now standing criteria for an idle zone. We run into a couple of different issues over the years, and we're trying to more or less address these by adding a 7th and 8th criteria to the existing criteria. Number 7 states that all of the above stated criteria will exclude private clubs, and that boat launches and docking facilities are not public, or if they're not capable of parking 10 vehicle trailer combinations or more, and are not open to the public usage for regular daily hours. This was put in place, or we're asking to put this in place on the diversion canal. We have got at least 12 concrete ramps at private individuals' homes. We haven't had one come up yet, but at any time, following just the old criteria without having the private part put in there, any one of them technically could have presented a case to put an idle zone at their house. They've got a ramp, and they could say, we're opening it up to the public. It's going to be $250 to launch, but it's technically open to the public, so we want our idle zone.
Okay.
So we're just kind of trying to be proactive and head this off before we have any problems with that. The last criteria that we're adding is the Ascension Parish Waterway Commission and the Parish Council has the authority to review the entire set of facts presented to them on a case-by-case basis in order to determine what is in the best interest, safety, and general welfare of the parish in deciding whether to issue or not issue an idle no-wake zone.
Okay.
Meaning that you could have a public boat landing that meets the criteria of storing 10 and that's available all the time. But it could be located in a situation where we don't see more than maybe 4 or 5 boats a day launching. And in that case, it's not really justifiable for the good of the parish to shut down an entire waterway for 4 or 5 boats launching. So this is working as well to give the parish council leeway when it, if we deny them and they come to y'all or come past y'all to the parish council, y'all got the, in writing, a situation where this is a case-by-case basis. Just because it does meet the criteria doesn't mean that it will necessarily fit and be in the best interest of the public to have an idle zone there.
Okay.
That's really number 7 and number 8 is the changes that we're requesting. And is there any questions on this?
No. Any questions or comments?
Yeah, just a clarification for the public, what George talked about. The idle zone, generally when we have a change or a request for an idle zone, that it generally comes forward.
Through the waterways.
It comes forward through the Waterways Commission.
Yes, all requests for an idle zone start at the Waterways Commission. I guess at that point, they can more or less appeal it to y'all if they didn't like the answer that they got there. We've only had one that we turned down that came to strategic planning, and that was the Gonzales Boat Club.
Right.
We turned them down because they're a private club, and we just didn't see the situation there where they're going to launch enough boats to justify an idle zone there.
So even when y'all grant one, John, does that come before the council or?
Yes, yes
Yeah.
it does.
It's much like the planning commission on a zoning act, or a zoning
Right.
commission on a zoning action. So, you do have the right.
But didn't we enact some legislation just a short while back on granting you guys some anonymity to work on your own to when you're granting?
They've always been
I know.
their own body, but it's still just a recommendation.
Yeah. Okay. I just want to clear that up.
But we give them the tools to do with the criteria
Yeah.
to work with.
Are we
We
looking?
sort of stand there to do the homework that y'all don't have the time necessarily to do to see whether it's a legitimate. In the case of the Gonzales Boat Club, one of the neighbors actually set us up a camera for almost a month and let us see how many boats actually go there. And this was during the summer. And during that 1 month, there wasn't but like 12 boats that docked up at that place. And it's really hard to justify to the public while we're making them slow down here. If there's only 12 boats in a 30-day period, that's not going to be a whole lot. They're going to pass by and wonder, why is there an idle zone here when there's no boats here at all? So,
Okay.
and
Mr.
just,
Chairman, are we looking for a motion to go forward to
It's up
the full
up to
council?
you. That's something we can send it.
I make that motion to move that to the full council. The change requested by the Waterways Commission in Article 3, Section 22 to 30 addition. This addition, Tony, of items number 7 and number 8.
Yes, that's what it is.
All right.
Second that motion.
We have a motion by Councilman Kluwat, second by Councilman Johnson on the additions.
Discussion.
Discussion, Mr. Valentine.
Ms. Faltman,
Yes, sir.
one of the things that, in 8, if we would review that, I think you've already reviewed this, or at least somebody has, but if you haven't,
Yeah.
just the wording that says the Ascension Parish Waterways Commission and the Parish Council has the authority. Essentially, we act on their recommendations, whether it be for or against. That whoever brings it would have, reading that, it's like either or can do it, and so it needs to be clarified. So you might want to look at that wording.
Can you put in there that the Waterways Commission has the authority to recommend and the council has authority to act?
Legislate.
Yeah,
Legislate.
that's probably what it should be.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
All right?
Because that's the only power they have is to recommend.
That's all.
With those, do you want to have those changes, Councilman Kluwat?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. You can put those changes in.
With those changes in the motion, any further discussion? Any objection?
No.
So pass. Ms. Tony, please send that to the full council. Grass cutting overlay, Councilman Joseph.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If we can put that screen up there,
There you go.
there you go. Overlay grass cutting, just to bring you up to date, the parish council, the parish have a law for subdivision for grass cutting. If you live in a subdivision and your grass is so high, and they go there, inspect it, they let the landowner know. If they don't do it, the parish go in there and cut it and put it towards their taxes. Well, I get the phone calls just about every week in the summertime about grass cutting, and in a rural area, that law don't apply to them. So myself and Mr. Shake Snyder have discussed this here for about a year and a half, 2 years now. And so I was trying to get it to the council to see where we're going to go with it. And this is a grass cutting overlay. If you can look at this monitor up there and you can see those little area, we have communities like where that on highway by the Mississippi River where you see the number 1 is, that is Smoke Bin. That's been a community existing for over 100 years. But it's a real small community. They have houses next to each other where they have landowners have left and they don't want to cut their grass. So, you know, they're stuck with mosquito, rodent, and everything in their small community. So I'm requesting that we do a grass cutting overlay on certain areas that is not a subdivision. And this will apply to the rule for subdivision. And at least the landowners or the community can make the phone call to the parish and ask them to look at it. The parish would send those landowner notice, and they would cut it and forward that bill to the landowners. It's a need. I know on the West Bank, every one of them you see right there is in District 1. That purple is in District 1. And I know Councilman Adrian have some in Modesto, and Councilman Kit have some in Lemonville and in Aben area. We don't have that many subdivisions on the west side besides one of them is outside, well, 2 of them is outside the city limits. So I'm asking that you look at this request and we can make a recommendation to the full council.
I got a question.
Basically, these areas are areas that were subdivisions before there was such a name, before there was any regulations. They're 100 years old. They settled in an area living close to each other, as Councilman Joseph said. And but basically, they run through the same problems any other subdivision, and yet they're not named a subdivision, so they don't follow under the guidelines of everyone else. And we have no recourse. So we have decided to pick out the ones that would fit into the subdivision realm and put that down as an overlay and give them the same opportunities to get some relief.
Is this something that we get our court in place that would have already be covered under the court? I'm talking about without doing the overlay. This is something that somebody could complain and to the landowner?
They can't, because there's no, the difference in the parish and the municipality is that you're allowed to do basically what you want with your property. So you can, and we don't want to stop people from allowing, if they have 10 acres of land, let it grow, in the rural areas. And that's why we wanted designated areas that have become suburban, living on top of each other, is to be, so we can designate them as only places.
Yeah. Well, I'm just saying that I thought that, if you had a house or row of houses there in a subdivision atmosphere or a street, that if one house didn't cut the grass, grew up to be shoulder high, under our new court system that we're setting up, somebody could complain.
No, not
and
unless
get that cut and back charge the owner.
not unless you have the overlay. That's why we looked into that, and that was the problem. We would have to designate it as an overlay. Right now, if that happens, we call them subdivisions. So once they designate as a subdivision regulations allow for the parish to come in, and if they do some harm to the general health and welfare, we can act upon it.
Okay, the areas
Only in
that
subdivision.
the areas that you had designated on the maps, and it's you guys' areas, okay? So I mean, the areas that you had designated on the maps, is there some meeting, town hall meeting or something? These people are good with this? I mean, I'm just asking.
No, but that's why we're
I'm just
that's
asking.
why it's coming to the strategic planning right now. So, I mean, this is making them aware of what we want.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and this is just like if we're going to do this overlay is like an ordinance. They're going to have a public hearing to pass this
Okay,
overlay.
that's what
The biggest thing is where if you have a house today, it take us a year. Say the grass grow up in the community.
I
It take us
understand.
a year to 18 months to us to even get the house torn down and the grass cut. And it goes through Richard Throckmore, and he have to go through a long list of everything to make sure the property right, certified letters, and all this other stuff. But with grass cutting, they go directly to the landowner, certified letter. If it's not done in within 30 days, according to just the ordinance, just like the subdivision one, the parish have the right to go cut it and bill them. It's a whole lot quicker. We cut time out.
So, Mr. Valentine.
Councilman Joseph, and Mr. Shakespeare, what kind of criteria do we have? Do we have, I mean, Kent's mentioned subdivision, 100 years old, 50 years old, whatever. What kind of criteria are we going to go by? A certain size lot? I mean, you know, we mentioned it, you know, somebody's got 10 acres, want to grow it up. We don't want to start encroaching on people's rights. So I think I know the gist of what you want to do with these subdivisions that have these small roads that was built years and years ago, and there's abandoned lots. But as Ms. Falterman stated a while ago, you may have a lot that might belong to 15 heirs. You know, which heir is going to pay? So we want to keep the grass cut to make it safe for the people that live there. I understand that. But then again, we don't want to put such a burden and expense on the parish. We got to hunt up 15 heirs to a piece of property just to get the grass cut. So what kind of criteria are we going to build on this ordinance?
These criteria are distant, property distant. If you're within, right now is 150 to 300 feet. And right now, these markers are on that drawing right now, and where the purple drawing is like 300 feet right now.
Right.
So that's the only portion of the property. If you're within your neighbor, if your property is only a quarter of an acre, but if it's more than 300 feet, past that 300 feet, that's not eligible for someone to tell you that need to be cut, because
Right.
that is out. Those, if you look at that map, is only where the property is. And if you can look at them, there are small lots, and if you look on Highway 1 coming down those long strips of streets coming down there, there's houses on both sides of but they're lots. The lots of those where those houses is no more than about 150 to 200 feet depth.
So we're going to have an ordinance that's going to, the overlay is going to say and specifically name each one of these.
That's right.
So we
With
got to
that-
go out and survey all that?
Right. Anything in the green, anything in that purple up there, that's not in it. If somebody build a subdivision, then they will fall under the subdivision law.
I'd asked Mr. Shakespeare about if y'all got something written. I think what we really need to do we need to really have this on paper for this strategic planning to kind of look at this. I want to send a vision to the council. I want to send something in writing.
Well, I'd like to add this right here. We're not looking to vote on anything.
Okay.
This has been brought up for the last 2 years. We have been working to try to get to some movement on this. There really hadn't been any movement lately, and we are looking to try to get some endorsement for administration to move forward with this.
Okay.
So that we can come up with specific criteria, specific locations. What they showed on the map is some suggestions from Councilman Joseph as to
Right.
areas. We were going to eliminate the ones that did not meet correct criteria and make sure we had the areas we
Right.
wanted and go forward
So
with it from
one
there.
of the main situations here is we're going to, it's not limited to the West Bank.
No.
As soon as we pass an ordinance, on the East Bank, Mr. Kluat's going to get some calls, Mr. Johnson's going to get some calls, Valentine's going to get some calls. Say, come cut my lot. So we got to make sure that if we're going to do this, that we're going to do it right.
And there are some language written down. Ricky Compton was supposed to send it over here somewhere in the carrier. Got
Okay.
but there is language
Okay.
written on it, and I'm sorry because it's not here tonight, but we can make sure tomorrow everyone get a copy of it, and then we'll bring it up. I'll be glad to
What
come
we're looking
back.
for tonight basically is endorsement for administration to proceed further so that we can get some written proposals to take a look at. That's basically what we're looking for.
I don't have an issue with going forward and looking at it, but Councilman Valentine pointed out, I mean, the overlay that you got here tonight is concerning the West Bank and nothing on the east side. I mean, if we do this ordinance, is it going to be a parish-wide ordinance, or are we going to try to finagle it to where it's just on the West Bank? And then the other concern that you have is you've got a bunch of agriculture area over there too. So if you got some of these houses that are bordering on a cane field or something of that nature, they're going to have to cut 300 feet into that cane field?
No,
Not
no,
included.
no,
So,
None of it's
no.
included.
If
know,
it's
that's-
agriculture, it don't affect it. It's only affected when your neighbor, is your concerned with a neighbor, and it's just,
It's gonna be a
untaken
definitive
care of.
area.
right. Yeah, I mean, if it's specified enough to the point of where we can make sure that we're not going into, or we're not going to get into an area that's going to cause us some issues with a guy with 5 acres or whatever, I don't have an issue with it. But I mean, we're going to have to be very careful with this. This is one of those issues that's, I mean, when you start talking about some of the land usage things, it's not going to be an easy thing to swallow for some people.
Right. No intention to do it on any large lots.
Okay. That's it. If anybody have any more questions, I appreciate it.
I just suggest you guys get something in writing, and maybe we'll take a look at it at the next.
Make sure
strategic
Ricky
plan meeting.
email it to you tomorrow, and you can work out some of the things that, so we can discuss it in
And
the upcoming
also
month.
encourage administration to do exactly whatever you fellows would like them.
We'd just like to get something that we can bring forward here with.
Well,
correct
I would
information.
encourage the working and joint working on the project for you fellows, so we can see something in writing, okay?
Okay.
Good enough. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank
With
you,
that, we
OJ.
come to number 7.
Motion adjourned.
Councilman Johnson
Second.
moved to adjourn, second by Councilman Valentine. This meeting is hereby adjourned.